Hello, this is Moira Darling. This is a little podcast on the topic of shame and judgment versus the power of vulnerability. A client asked me this question the other day, and this is the response. If you like it, please share it. Thanks. Shame and vulnerability work, and how do you combat shame with your vulnerability? I think if you have a high level of shame about whatever it is, you also have a high level of judgment of that emotion that you've got, or that story that you've got, or you've got it falls into I don't feel good enough, or I don't feel that, or I feel like I failed, or I feel like I've done something bad, or I feel like I'm not a good person, or I'm not a smart person, or whatever your shame story is. You are going to combat or hide that shame with secrecy, with pretending, with not being open and honest. And so you're going to try to portray yourself as not who you are or who you believe you are. You're going to perform or send an image out and try to be someone that you don't really feel authentically that you truly are. You're going to look like you're going to not be able to be yourself. Now, vulnerability comes from a place of my belief, my opinion of vulnerability is the vulnerability is another word for emotional honesty. And so when you're hiding something about what you feel about yourself, you cannot be hiding that emotion and be vulnerable at the same time, because they're both counteracting each other. Emotional honesty is, I feel really bad about this. I don't feel really, I feel like whatever. And I'm open with that. And I think vulnerability has such power, but people have a fear of that because they are afraid of being judged, or they're hiding that because they've got a lot of shame and judgment before they even that's what they're hiding for. They're steering away from the vulnerability, and so then the gap just gets wider. You can't reach it. You just create more and more distance between yourself and your authentic self, or the self that you're trying to portray, because you don't want to be seen, because you're afraid of being judged, and you've got your own shame and your own judgment of yourself is basically what you project onto other people. And so if you don't heal that, or you reframe that, or you settle with that, or you come to some acceptance and peace with that, then you're always going to be running that story. And so vulnerability becomes very difficult for you. Yeah. So the vulnerability is, from my view of vulnerability, there's different levels of it. From a conscious view of vulnerability, vulnerability is pure honesty, emotional honesty, but you got to be wise with how that is, because lots of people, whatever your emotional honesty is, whatever that is, and you're being open with that, and you're open to that, you got to, everything that you say or anything that you offer out is going to be heard from someone else where they are.
Yeah.
So if they are conscious people, or they've got a lot of ability to see that and land it in a place of absolute power and humility and support and non-judgment, which would be a conscious person, then they're going to see your vulnerability as such a gift to yourself and to them. But someone else can see vulnerability and try to use it against you. So you have to be very wise with how you open yourself up to be vulnerable. And it has to be in a safe, with a safe person or a safe situation. Otherwise, your vulnerability can be used against you. And that's what we're all afraid of. You know, we've often, all of us have had moments where we've been open and vulnerable with someone who maybe have abused that vulnerability, or, you know, taken it and taken advantage of it, and it makes us feel even weaker. So we then become even more full of shame and more afraid and more. So the power of vulnerability is vulnerability is the honesty, but it's being wise with how and who you share that with. And that in itself will help you heal your shame if you're able to do that. But if you are afraid and you haven't found a space to open that up, then shame can actually be something that gets very integrated in, and you'll always need to protect it within yourself. And then so what you'll do is project an image of what you want people to see, so they don't see your truth, your authentic truth. They see the image that you're portraying, and that becomes very hard work and very stressful to maintain and to be to hold up, because it's a false image. It's coming from another place. It's not, you're not being yourself. You're being someone that you need to be seen, and then you become it's very, very stressful way to live. But lots of people do that, and I feel that, you know, that's my take on how that whole thing works. Now, I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but that's my take on it. The power of vulnerability is something that is very emotionally healing for the person who's being vulnerable and the person who's holding that vulnerability with them and sharing that vulnerability with them from their heart and from their soul, because it is about heart. That emotional honesty comes from heart, not from head. It's about acceptance of, this is what I'm feeling right now. It doesn't make you, this doesn't need to define me, but this is how I feel, and being okay with that. It takes such a lot of strength. People are not finding that easy. They're only happy with certain emotions that they carry. They're unhappy with others, and so they hide them. They think, well, I shouldn't feel angry, or I shouldn't feel sad all the time, or I shouldn't feel lonely, or I should know better. And we get into all these stories about what we should and shouldn't do. And actually, we're all human, and actually our humanness is where our connection is, and we've all are aspiring to be superhuman and above human connection. But actually that human connection is what we really want, and want more and more and more. And the way things are in the world these days, we're becoming so far removed from human connection, and we're into electronic connection, or we're into connections that are of images that people are portraying. And when are we being real? When are we being real with ourselves? When are we being real with other people? We're hardly ever doing that. And that becomes a whole other thing. And it's about being real, being responsible, being respectful, being kind, being compassionate, but being honest. And it's so refreshing when you come across that, and you have a moment where you've got that, and it just feels so refreshing, and it's becoming rarer and rarer. But that would be really what would be wonderful to bring back into our lives, because You know, we are human. We're not robots. We're not pieces of equipment. We're not mechanical. We're not superhuman. We're human. We've got vulnerabilities. We've got pain. We've got heartache. We've got, you know, we make mistakes. We get things right. We get things wrong. But that doesn't make us right, and that doesn't make us wrong. It makes us human. And I feel that that's what we need to remind ourselves of. You know, that's yours to offer. If you're open and vulnerable with someone, for example, and you tell them you love them, and they cannot or will not reciprocate, or they're not feeling the same thing, you have to accept, not rejection, but still accept the fact that you still feel what you feel. You can get to the place where you can say, I love you to someone, not need them to say it back. Because after all, you're the one that's feeling that. You're the one that's offering that, and that's your honesty. But if their honesty is, I can't tell you that because that's not how I feel, and you take that as a rejection, then you have not offered that love unconditionally. You've offered that love hoping to get that love back. And yes, of course, you want to hope it get back, but you're attached to getting it back. And if you don't get it back and you're attached to getting it back, you're going to feel the feelings of being rejected. But at the end of the day, if your truth is, I love you, it's how I feel. I don't care whether you love me back or not. It's how I feel. It's my love. I can give you my love because I have it. Why do I have it? Because I have love to give. But if I'm giving you love in order to get yours back, and I'm only going to be able to do that, and I'm only going to manage, it kind of means I'm not really, I'm loving conditionally. It's not the same thing. If you have the solidness of yourself and you know how you feel about yourself, and you've said, I love how I feel about you, that's your truth, then you can be open with that, with no need, with no attachment to getting that back. Why? Because it's yours to give. But love is love. Simple. You don't need anything back. But if love becomes need, I need you to give me, I need that back. It would be lovely if it came back. I don't need it back. You don't have love to give. How can you give it? I don't know if does that make sense to you? You can give love to whoever you please if you have it built within you. You can love anyone. It's a self-generating emotion. But if you have not built that within, you're going to need it coming in. You're going to look for it on the outside to feel that love. But our job as individuals is to build it within. And really build it within. Really connect to what it is. Love, acceptance, and peace, and respect for ourselves, and you know, be considerate of ourselves, and be kind to ourselves, and have compassion for ourselves, and build that within ourselves. Because when we've got it within ourselves, you can share it with whoever. And actually, the more you share it, the more more that you build it. But if you're afraid to love, in case of being rejected, it's like It don't matter. Then that's something else. What's that telling you about you, where you are? You're not going to remember telling someone I loved them. I just said, I just love you. I really don't care whether you love me back. I really don't care. I don't mind if you don't. I don't mind if you do. But I know how I feel, and I'm solid with that. I have no doubt about that. And it is just what it is. I don't need anything back. I don't need anything. It is what it is. That's it. And so that's unconditional. Your heart and your love is yours to give to whoever you want to. But you're only going to be able to give it unconditionally if you got it. That's why when we talk about the cornerstones and the self-love and how to build that within you, it's so essential, because you cannot give what you do not have. And that's why it starts with you, it begins with you, it builds with you, it's your responsibility, and then you have it to share. That's the alchemy of real self-love. It is not coming from the outside in, it's coming from the inside and going out. And you have to be wise, and you have to be clear, and you have to continue to pay attention in order for you to build that. Loving someone doesn't mean accepting unacceptable behavior from them. That is not going to build self-love. That can become abusive. But people can see love as weak, especially if they're into that kind of self-absorbed mentality where they're just saying, well, love is weak. It's not weak. It's very, very powerful. It's what everybody wants. But you got to build that within yourself. And if you're not building it within yourself, you're going to look for it outside. And if you find it outside, you're going to hang on big time. You're going to hang on strong. You're going to be attached to it because we need it and we want it. It's authentically who we are. It's the essence of us. Mm-hmm. And we're all searching for it. But we're searching out there rather than, and we're looking at the image and we're looking at this, but we're not feeling it within our own hearts. And that's where we have to not protect ourselves, not become secretive. The open-heartedness allows the vulnerability, the honesty of yourself opens your heart. And vulnerability, if you have a fear of intimacy, or you're afraid of vulnerability, then it's going to be really hard to have a relationship with someone at a loving equal, because your own fear is going to keep you protected, is going to keep there's a level of shame that you're hiding and you're secretive. You won't be able to reach that connection, and people want that connection. You can't reach it if you don't have open-hearted vulnerability, because that's what really allows a relationship to flourish. The honesty, emotional honesty.